Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today is 4th of July 2020, so happy Independence Day. We shall persevere through any challenges that we face. So today's video I want to talk about the Canvas course system that a lot of universities use and UNLV is using as well. This is what we use to basically have an online website, which may or may not be used as part of remote learning, but it is definitely something that is very, very beneficial to have. Even if you're doing an in-person class, you want to have a Canvas course system. It can be very useful for managing any sort of assignment submissions and providing any sort of information or content to your students and whatnot. So it is highly encouraged to have in your courses. And so what is Canvas? Or what, a lot of people don't even know it by that name. They know it by Webcampus. And frankly, I'm not 100% sure on which one the right name is. All I know is that Webcampus is powered by Canvas, and that's what they say. And so in this video, I'm going to be calling it Canvas, but I'm talking about this Webcampus system that is powered by Canvas, which is a company that provides a service to UNLV. So I went ahead and created a list of some of the topics I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to try to go in order for the most part. I'm actually going to be erasing them as I go on. So if there's anything in specific that you wish to jump to, then you can kind of see what is left as we progress here. And I'll try to go for the most part in the appropriate order that you see here. So before that though, let's actually do the most basic thing. And how do we get to Canvas? Well, you can go ahead and type UNLV Canvas or find with your administrator the link. But if you're a different university and you're watching this, but ultimately, all you want to do is just hit login. And if you have a passwording system, in this case for UNLV, you're using ACE, it will ask you for a username and password. You will log in, and then you will see the dashboard. The dashboard is basically your home page to Canvas, where all the different courses that you are either teaching or if you're a student that you're enrolled in would appear. And so in this case, we've went ahead and created a test course. This is not something that I can do, but I requested OIT to do so that I can basically do this video without breaking any of my existing courses that I'm teaching. And so that's what we're going to be using for this video. So the first thing that we want to do is, as you can see, we clicked on the course and that went ahead and opened the home page of the course. And in the home page of the course, on the left here, you can also go back to dashboard this way. You can also see a list of all the courses you have enrolled in or have taught or anything by hitting course. There's also a messaging system, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And a couple of other things, including your account information as well, which I don't think I want to click on because there might be personal stuff there. But it'll give you some details about your account. And so in the list here, the first thing that we want to do is we want to add people. Now, why would you want to add people? Normally, if you're teaching a course, the university will already connect anybody officially enrolled in your course to have access to your Canvas course as a student. And if they don't, then you should direct them to the OIT services to go ahead and fix that. I've only ever seen that happen once. They actually just happened recently over the summer, and they fixed it for them. But it's not something that we can do. I would not recommend that you try to add them as anything but a student. And most of the time, you're not able to add somebody as a student. So yes, but what can you do if you can add somebody as a student? Well, one of the most beneficial things to add in is going to be to add someone as a TA. So if you have a TA or a grader, or you would like to have somebody as an observer, you can go ahead and add them. So how do you go ahead and add somebody as a TA? Well, you look up their email and you type it here. So for example, in this case, I'm going to add, and I do hope I have the name right, like this. I'm going to add this person as my TA. And so you type in the email that they have a Canvas account connected to. Don't type in a Gmail account or anything. Type in the account, the university account that they are using to log in. And if you don't know this, then talk to them and ask them. And then you have a couple of different options. If you make them a teacher, they have the ability to add or remove practically anything in the course. You may or may not want it depending on if you trust the TA to not accidentally delete your exams or things like that. If you would like to kind of limit a little bit more on what they can do and what I highly recommend that you actually set them as, you can set them as a TA, and that will basically allow them to grade assignments, to view people enroll in the course, to create announcements, I believe, and participate in any discussions, but they cannot create a brand new assignment themselves, nor can they delete one as far as I know. So that is usually what you want to give a TA, unless you're trying to give them more responsibilities, like actually adding something to the Canvas course if you're not doing it yourself. There are other categories. The only one that I will talk about for now is the observer one. That is sort of like a pseudo student. It's basically someone that's just observing your course, sort of sitting in the course, if you might think of like that. And we may ask, for example, if I may ask you to add me as an observer so that I can monitor your usage of Canvas and things like that. But what that means is that I have the ability to, actually, I do believe I have the ability as an observer to see people's grades as well. So be aware of that. Don't add a student as an observer because they will be able to see other grades, which may be a violation of FERPA. So be aware of that. So yes, observer is more for another faculty that you want to kind of sit in to audit you or things like of that nature. And so, yeah, beware of that. So again, you don't see student here. That's because that's not how you add students. For students, they have to contact OIT and have that be added by them. Do not try to add students in this way or manner. The only person that you should realistically be adding is a co-instructor, someone that's watching over you, like me, or a TA. And frankly, that's what I typically do. So let's go ahead and I'm actually going to add him as a teacher because this is if you're on the Discord, then we're using this video as a tutorial that you will follow and create some of the things that are in this video. So I do want him to be able to create all of that. Actually, let's add him as a TA because then I can show you how to change it or update it if you make a mistake. Yeah, that's better. So you hit next, and then it's going to ask you to confirm if this is the person that you want to add. If it found their system, if they found their logging information in the system, as they should, then it will go ahead and list you who this person is. And once it does that, then you can double check that you went ahead and put in the right person. Now, more than likely, if you put a wrong email, it wouldn't give you anybody. But it's possible, especially if you have a very generic name like John Smith, that you're writing the wrong John Smith potentially. And so this might be a way that you might catch that. So make sure that the email address is correct. Once you're ready to go, you can go ahead and click Add User. If in the case you make a mistake, you can either hit cancel or start over. But in this case, we're good. And so as you can see here, they went ahead and got added, but notice it says pending. What that means is that an invitation to join the course was sent to the person that you sent it to, but until they accept it, of course, they don't have access to it. And so once they do finally go accept it, then you will know that because this pending will basically disappear as it has for this one right here. So that's kind of what you can expect. You can also monitor when this person last logged in and the total time they have spent on the system. Notice here that it says I've spent 42 minutes on this course. That's pretty much because about 42 minutes ago, I got the information from OIT and then decided to make this video. Now, this doesn't mean that I've been actively doing things for the last 42 minutes here because as you can see, it's pretty empty. It just means that I had a browser open and it times that. You can, I believe, see more details about each person individually. You can go ahead and, I believe, yes, you click on the person and you can look. You can remove them, by the way. You can remove them if you would like to remove them from a position that you're given, like a TA. But here we go. You can click on Access Report, and that will tell you what they've done, what they've seen, and what basically monitor all they are doing. So, for example, in this case, we see that this individual visited the course home about 2 times. And that happened about 39 minutes ago, which is probably when I added them. They probably just accepted the invite, connected, basically were like, hey, it's alive. Okay. And then logged off. You can also look at the interactions report. So if there's anything sketchy going on between a TA and a student, such as any harassments or things like that, which hopefully don't happen, but they could, then you can look at that report as well. So the way that I access there is I clicked again on the names. If you want to go back to the list of people, hit on the tab that says people. And as you can see, if I was to click on one of the ones that haven't accepted, then the access report is going to be empty, of course, and then it doesn't tell me anything. However, suppose that I wanted to update this and I wanted to change the permissions that they have from TA to potentially a teacher or, observer. You can go ahead and click on the 3 dots on the right here, click on Edit Role, and then in Role you can go ahead and switch it. So in this case, I'm going to switch them to teacher, hit Update, and now you can see that it says teacher. Of course, once you actually have students in here, you would see a bunch of them that say student along with this. But in this case, then this is empty because this is sort of a test thing that we made. You can also go ahead and mess with groups, but that's something that's beyond the scope of this, so I will not talk about that. So that's basically how you add a TA. So we can go ahead and remove this. How do you remove a user? Well, I think I already showed you that, but I will go ahead and very briefly revisit it again. Click on the user that you wish to remove, and then you can go ahead and click delete. I do recommend that you remove your TAs from the courses after the courses have finished. This will allow you to not basically have any loose ends of information that could leak out that you may not want to or anything like that. So avoid any potential problems and just remove your TAs when you're done with the course, which means when the semester ends. Okay. All right, hosting files. So as you can see, there's other things that we can do here. So the next one that we're going to go ahead and look at is the one called files. By the way, I do want to notice something here. Notice that some of these have a little I with a line across. That's what it means. Whenever you see this on Canvas, it means that it's not visible to a certain group of people. And if you want to see what that is, which typically is the students, you can highlight it and it says no content, not visible to students. In this case, it's not visible because you haven't uploaded anything here or you haven't used any of these categories. When you do, it'll appear, but you can still hide something. So for example, a lot of the times people don't really use attendance in Canvas, although you can keep track of that. There is a way to hide that. And I will show you, but first let's go in order. So let's go back to files. So let me go ahead and show you how to upload and store a file on Canvas. Why would you want to do that? Perhaps it's something that you will be using as part of an online quiz, as part of an assignment that you're delivering online, or perhaps it's some sort of tutorial that you went ahead and created ahead of time. The kind of files that you typically upload can be something like a PDF file for an assignment, an image for some sort of visual aid to your course, or videos you can upload, and there is a 3 GB limit, as you can see here. So I do not encourage you to upload a lot of videos. I do recommend that you use a third-party service such as YouTube. You can make the videos unlisted there and then link them here. I'll show you how to link them in a little while. You can also just make them public as well and still link them. And basically, it's more than linking them, you can embed them. So you'll see, it's pretty cool. But yeah, those are most of the primary things that you will be seeing that you will be uploading here are PDF files and that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and upload some files that we can play with. So I didn't plan this part of the video, so I'm just kind of gonna jump into assignment 1 of my summer class. And here we go. I have a little PDF. Wait, I didn't have an assignment 1. That was a PDF. Oh, I guess I did. Let's go with that. Okay. Let's just upload that and see what happens. Okay. And then let me see what's in here. Ah, okay. So this is actually, I did make an assignment 1 version of this. Cool. So this was the assignment 1 the students have to do. And so it's a PDF that, as you can see, it's not very descriptive. That's probably not the best of examples. That's because I didn't actually use that directly. So maybe we can upload, yes, assignment 3, that's better. So here you can see that this is an actual assignment. Well, you'll see in a second. It's a file that I created in Microsoft Word, but you can do LaTeX or whatever. But then I save it as a PDF. Why did I save it as a PDF? I recommend you do that for your assignments because it allows others to not as easily modify it and create confusions. And also PDF is a very open format that A, can be opened directly on Canvas, but B, if not, they can download it and pretty much open it with just about anything. Whereas if you make something in Microsoft Word, they technically need Microsoft Word unless they have another open office or something like that. So PDF is far more accessible to people. So anyways, we'll upload that. But the next thing I want to kind of point out here is you see these little check marks when you upload something, and it says published. What this means, and by the way, if I click away from this, you will see that the file no longer has the little cross, the I with the cross, is that anybody can access these files. Now, this is great if that's kind of what you intend, but more than likely, you don't want to do this. You want to control these files to not just be downloadable by anybody, but to be downloadable depending on a certain page. So for example, you can make an assignment page where you talk about the assignment and then you put the PDF. Or maybe you have some code that you have to give them, like some sort of skeleton code. So let's actually, well, I won't do that for a second, but we'll upload in a minute some skeleton code that maybe you want to give out and things like that. But the point is, if you just let them download them like this, then sometimes the students see all these files, they download them, and they all get confused, and then you get a bunch of emails with questions. So the best thing to do is to just hide everything from here, and then control the information on the pages that are directed to whatever the assignment is or the test. What can also happen is this. Suppose that on a test, you wanted to actually have an image in the test, a visual aid. So suppose that you had a graph that the students had to compute the shortest path or something, or something of that sort. This is an image that is sensitive. It's sensitive information that you don't want to show to the students until they're taking the test, right? If you just post it here and make it public, they can technically open the file section and look at all the images before the test is even published. You obviously don't want to do something like this because that is kind of leaking your test beforehand, right? So, my dog is smelling me for some reason. Okay. Come on, dog. Be nice. I'm making a video. All right. Sorry about that. So, yeah. So you want to control the information by hiding it. But if you just go ahead and click on this and then hit on unpublished, then it is completely hidden from anybody. And even you can't technically link it out. So you don't want to do that either. What you actually want to do is hit the one that says only available to students with link. Not even the scheduled one. The scheduled one is unnecessary. This one is the best one because this link is not something that a student can guess. And furthermore, now, because it is only available with the link, where are you going to post the link? When you create the assignment. And then you can time the assignment to be released at a certain time if you care about not releasing information beforehand. Such as, for example, suppose you have a program, assignment 1, and then assignment 2 is, you need the solution of assignment 1 for. And maybe you want to publish a solution, generic solution, for the students that couldn't complete assignment 1. You may want to have that ready to go, but you don't want to release it because otherwise people will just cheat. If you've ever taken the compilers or 226, that's kind of how it works with the phase of the projects. The solution of each phase is released so that students can continue even if they couldn't finish a previous phase. So anyway, back to this. That's what you basically want to do. You want to go ahead and list things as unlisted so that then you can control when things are published or not. This way, if you were to actually post this on a test, the test, and there was an image, the image in the test would show just fine to students. Whereas if it was private, it would show fine to you when you're reviewing the test because you're a teacher. You have access to private images. But when the students started to take the test, the image wouldn't show at all. Now, this isn't just a theoretical. This actually has happened before to some of us. And it sucks because in half the test, you have to figure out what is happening. So we are telling you this out of experience so that you don't have the same mistakes that we've already made. And so you want to list things as unlisted and then control the delivery elsewhere. So the other thing I recommend while I'm here is you want to use a folder organization system. I typically have a homework folder, and then I have a test folder, visual aids, that kind of thing. And it's just strictly for your organization, but also, as you can see, every time I upload something, it automatically defaults to public. But if I go ahead and unpublish the entire folder, then by default, the files that I upload inside of that folder will actually be private, and that's going to save me basically avoid from having any mistakes. So let's go ahead and actually, in homework folder, let's create a folder in there called assignment 1. Notice that this folder is still showing as public. Did I hit unpublish before? I might have. Yes, my accident. I meant to hit on available with only link, because here's what's going to happen. The advantage of doing this is now, if I go ahead and create a folder in here, the privileges will sort of flow. So I make assignment 1, hit the check mark. As you can see, that's also unlisted. So that's the other thing. If you do unpublished, even a full, and then inside of that you add more stuff with that folder, it will show as published, which will cause problems essentially. So you make everything unlisted, the permissions will kind of flow inside of the folder, and it makes your life easier to avoid creating mistakes. So okay, let me find an assignment that actually has some visual aids. Yeah, sure, this one. Okay, so here's an assignment that I made for students, and this is a picture that goes with the assignment. And so I'm going to upload that in the same folder, There's even a joke, so I'll put the joke in there. And then I have my skeleton code for the students. This is perfect, actually. And then the PDF. And then, you don't have to do this, but you can. If you would like to have a copy as a way of backing up information in here, you can even upload your solution by hitting it there. And so I don't personally suggest doing that, but you can actually keep your own solutions to your own assignments there, which makes things nice to access from just about anywhere. But in this case, the bare minimum is going to be my PDF, my random pictures that I like to put to engage students, and the skeleton code that I'm giving the students, which is pretty much about what you would get if you're giving out an assignment, like a programming assignment. Okay, in Visual Aids over here, I'm going to actually create a picture that I will explain for later. I guess we can actually use the... Yeah, we can use the same pictures from here. So I'll just upload that there. Perfect. Another thing that I might want to upload in here is potentially a syllabus. So let's just call a folder called Syllabus, just because I like to be organized. But notice that it says published, so make sure you put it as unlisted. And then from there, let's go ahead and upload a syllabus. I don't want to put a syllabus just randomly there, so I'm just going to go ahead and put another PDF, which would be the equivalent of a syllabus. Okay, just imagine that this is a syllabus. It's a PDF file. That's what I recommend your syllabus as. Okay, so this is your basics of hosting files. If you ever want to delete a file, which I have been doing in the video, but I didn't quite say it, is you click on the three dots. You can download the file. If you want to download a copy, you can rename it. You know, say this is a syllabus, so we're going to call it fake syllabus. And then you can also move it if you want to move it between different directories. And you can hit delete, which after you confirm will actually make it go away. So I don't want to delete it though, because that's my fake syllabus, which I'm very proud of. So that takes care of this one. Okay. I should have put, I think the syllabus is all the way down here. Okay, that's fine. All right, let's talk about, let's actually flip this one, because this will make more sense if we talk about this first. So a little change there. Assignment creation. So let's go ahead and make an assignment. That's going to be the bulk of your work when you're doing this, is you want to make an assignment. So if you hit home right now, you will see that it says create a new module or add existing content. As you will see, you are able to import things from other courses, such as your old courses or a generic course that is being run as a group. In this case, we're starting from scratch. We're not importing. So how do we add an assignment? You could technically just go into the assignments tab and then create assignments there. However, I recommend that you use the home so you can control the delivery of the content to your students. Hit the module tab and create a module. We can call, I like to create my modules by weeks, and I want to call this week 1 intro to C++ or something of the sort. You can lock it until a certain date. So if you would like to make it published later on, you can. I don't personally like to do that. I personally like to lock assignments themselves, but I like to leave the module topics there so the students can see that and it kind of matches the syllabus schedule. Similarly, you can create another one. So let's make another module called week 2. From there, now they're going to be learning inheritance, because it's hard. You know, they went hardcore pretty fast there. Okay, so as you can see, the little cross sign means that if a student was logged in here, they would not be able to see anything that you add. So to make it public, you can hit that. Although for now, I'm going to leave it unpublished because I want to see a little side effect that happens if you're not careful. So, okay, once you do that, if you hit the little plus sign here, you can add a lot of things to a module. And so these are going to be the bulk of the things that you want to have. An assignment, which is sort of a homework assignment, something that is deliverable. A quiz, which is some sort of online examination. You could technically have a file download directly here. I don't recommend you do that. It's like saying, yeah, here's some stuff. I don't like doing that. I like to explain what I'm offering a student. So if you want to give a student certain files to download, I'd rather you make the next thing, which is a page, which can be used to just talk about just about anything. You can think of it like a tiny little web page. But better yet, if you're actually giving files to students for some reason or the other, you can write a page where you describe the files and then you link them there. That's much better, much more organized. Remember, when you're making a Canvas course, it's not just about giving the students the information, but making it in a way that is nice and understandable. Okay, there's a difference between me just giving you something or writing a nice visual interface that can make more sense of the information, and the students will like it more, and it'll be much cleaner. So yes, this is much better. I think there's a difference in using Canvas for just delivering stuff to students. I've seen people, not going to call out anybody, who just go to files and they upload their assignments there, and they just tell the students download them from there. That's all there's to it. Yeah, it works, it's functional, but I think it's nice to go the extra mile and make things look a little bit nicer. So I think if you show your students that this is a very nice, professional looking thing, I think they'll treat this with more respect, and they'll take the class more serious, and they'll be engaged better, they'll like it better. So yes, that's my opinion. Anyways, discussions, you can link to a discussion which you haven't gotten to, and text headers. Actually, yeah, let's add a little text header so you can see what that is like, because I didn't have that anywhere in the list of things to talk about. This is just, for example, I like to use this as a placeholder. For example, no assignment 1 or something. And all that's going to do is going to add some text there. But you can also use it as a sort of a subcategory within the module. So yeah, all that is just literally a label that students can see. And if you ever want to see what a student sees from the point of view of a student, you can click over here where it says student view. That's going to enter you in this little mode where basically you can see what the student is looking at. And as you can see, I don't see week 1 because that was private. I only see week 2 because it's public. So there you go. That's one way to detect if something is private or public. And yeah, you basically see the way the students see it. See, there's less categories here because there's less things that were public beforehand. So they're not going to show up there. So if you want to see what a student is looking at, this is the way. If you would like to return, you can leave student view, and that'll bring you back to your normal administrator's point of view. Anyways, let's go ahead and show you how to delete something from here. You can just hit remove and then hit OK. However, this is a little title page or whatever that was, like a header. That will actually get deleted for real. But if you created an assignment here and you deleted it, that's not really deleting the assignment. That's just hiding it per se from this module sort of group, but it will still show up on the assignments tab. So just FYI. So anyways, let's go ahead and make a new assignment. So you hit new assignment, give it an assignment name. So we're going to call this assignment, I think, what was the number? 9? Well, we'll call it 1 anyways. Assignment 1, give it a nice topic to the assignment. So coding with, it's like Tom Cruise or something. I think that was the topic of the assignment was. Oh, Edge of Tomorrow. Yes, Edge of Tomorrow, which is where the pictures are from. I like to make assignments that have a theme because it engages the students better. So you created it, and you can see it's not published, which means the students don't see it. That's good by default, especially once you make a course public and the students are there later in the semester. You don't want to see them this work in progress thing. You want to hide everything until it's ready to show, right? So it's about that professionalism, right? You don't want to show your students how your work in progress building an assignment page. You want to just publish it when it's ready to go and maintain that level of professionalism. So you click on that, and you enter basically the assignment page. So you can see everything is practically empty here. That's okay. We're going to build this basically from here. So how do you build it? Go ahead and click the edit button, and that's going to bring you into a little editor, text editor, and a couple of other settings. Let's go to these settings first. Point is how many points the assignment is worth. Once I talk about grading and scales, you will see that you can basically scale an assignment to be worth more than others, and within that there's categories that you can scale individually. So in this case, we're going to make the assignment out of 100 points. And so you go ahead and give it an assignment group. And so we haven't quite talked about that. So this might be a good time to discuss assignment groups. So normally in computer science, we have syllabus that specify that usually about half of the grade comes from homework and half of the grade comes from tests. And if you have 3 tests, each test might be worth a third of the half grade, so 33, 33, and 33, or they might be worth 25, 25 if you have a midterm and a final. So we can mimic that here so that we don't have to worry about creating some kind of Excel sheet to keep track of people's grades. And so the way that we can do that is we can go into the assignment section tab, which I just clicked it and I'm opening it a new tab. And then in here, you can go ahead and click on assignment group weights. And actually, go to groups first. Yeah, create some groups like this first. And then let's go ahead and make two groups. Let's call this one midterm 1, or just midterm. And then make another group and call this one maybe final exam. And then we have an assignment one, but we're just going to make, just to show you, one called homework. Okay? And so now we've created these little sort of categories of assignments. And we want to weight them so that we can match what the syllabus does. So we can go to assignment group weights, and then here, I went too fast there. Click here, assignment group weights, click on weight final grade based on assignment groups, and now you can deliver a specific percentage for each category. So I'm going to say that homework is half the grade, and then the midterm is worth maybe 20% of the grade, and the final is worth 30%. As you can see, it goes to 100. If I try to do something like this, things break, because we're 105. So make sure that's to 100. The assignments category, I'm putting a 0 because that one is just sort of a placeholder. I like to have my own homework category. But you could use this as your homework category. Click Save. And so now you can see here all the different grade distributions. And so if I go ahead and drag this into one of these, now this assignment's points will be used in this category. So going back to this, if I go ahead and hit cancel, and then go ahead and click at it again, you can see that it already got updated to homework. But I can also do that by hand. So if I'm creating a new assignment, I can manually select here homework, and now that will count towards the homework category. And within that category, the way that it will calculate the grade is, of course, it's going to add all the points of each of the assignments together, and all of that together will be that 50%. So what could happen? Suppose that each of your assignments is worth 100 points, and you have 20 assignments. So that's 2,000 points. And you make a midterm exam that's 100 points. And you have the current system that I put here. And maybe your final exam is worth 1 point, okay? So you have 2,000 points here, 100 points here, 1 point here. That does not mean that the 2,000 points here is going to overwhelm these. No. Those 2,000 points is still only 50% of the grade. And this single 1 point is worth 30% of the grade. So the points only matter individually within each of these categories if you set it up this way. And then that way, it allows you to not have to worry about trying to do some math and figuring out how many points is the exam so that it can balance out to be this percent of the grade. You don't have to worry about that. If you just do the assignment weighting as I did, Canvas will do this for you when it's computing the final grade. Or in general when it's computing the grade, because you can see the grade as it's going at any time. Okay, so back to the assignment. Now we went ahead and created an assignment group. You can go ahead and display the grade on the grade book with points, percentages, and things like that. I would just leave it as it is with points as default. Then you want to set the submission type. So suppose that they have a paper assignment that you want to submit in paper. In that case, there's nothing deliverable online. So you could just hit on paper. This works for anything where the student has to submit something in person or by other delivery method. However, if you want to, which is what I recommend, submit via Canvas submission system, go ahead and hit online. And then you have a couple of options here of the kind of entry that you have. If it's some sort of text entry, in which case they'll get a box like this to type their own answers. It's if they're submitting some sort of URL or media upload. Or what I personally recommend that you do is you hit file upload, and then that will make a submission link for the students to submit their assignment, whether it's an essay, a program, anything that it is. File upload will take care of that. The only time I suggest text entry is if you expect them to write some kind of little essay within Canvas's system. But even then, why not just do it in Word and then have them upload a Word document or a PDF document? So suppose that you just want to get PDF documents, or you're programming in C++ and you only want to get C++ files, which are CPP files and header files. You can restrict upload files to control this and avoid students, because you know it's a typical thing. It's even an ongoing joke. You tell students to submit in one format, and they submit in some obscure format, which they might be doing accidentally, but sometimes they're doing it because they're trying to hide that they didn't do the assignment or something like that. So suppose that you want to limit it to only submitting PDF files. You can just go ahead and write PDF like this, and now anything that's not .pdf will not be allowed to be submitted by the system. This is a very simple check that can be circumvented, of course, but it's more of an honest man's thing to stop accidents from happening for students at least. So in the case of C++, I'm going to allow CPP files, but also header files. I can use a comma to separate them if I want to allow more than one extension. In this case, maybe I also want PDF files for their write-ups. So we are accepting a C++ file, a header file, and or a PDF file. That pretty much covers me for C++ stuff. Plagiarism review is more for essays than it is for programming. It allows you to check plagiarism directly there. In your case for UNLV, you will be using the MOS system to check for potential plagiarism or academic misconduct situations of that sort. Group assignments and peer review I'll skip. That's a little more advanced if you're trying to do some teamwork, but most of the classes that we have, we don't allow students to collaborate anyway, so there's no point in spending time on that. Assigning to, you want to keep that at everybody by default. However, if you have merged multiple Canvas courses together, or if you're just giving an assignment that's going to be unique to some person, you can do that by putting it here exactly who it is. So yeah, we'll just let it be to everybody. This might be useful. For example, if you want to, if you have a student, for example, say that I'm giving an online test, and a student has told me ahead of time that he would like to start 10 minutes early and finish 10 minutes early because he has work. And I went ahead and agreed to do this, which of course you don't have to, but I went ahead and did. And so now I want to still limit the time that they can take the test to, let's say, an hour, because that was the duration of the test. So if I want to assign that test to be available at a different time than somebody else, I can go ahead and hit the add feature here, and I can add individual student names here and have them do their own specific deadlines. Furthermore, suppose that a student who has an acceptable excuse, such as a UNLV sponsored event, such as part of a sports team or something, and they have an okay to turn in an assignment early or late, but you still want to have that deadline be set in that system, you can give individual students specific deadlines. So how do you give a deadline? Okay, this is very important to understand. You have 3 different calendar dates that you can put here. You have due, available from, and until. Let's start with available from. Available from is going to be the time when, once you made an assignment public, it's going to actually be available to students to look at. And until then, it'll say this assignment is locked and not show any details. So right now, this is not published. But if I went ahead and published it, and I have it available from starting, for example, July 6th, in that case, this will not be publicly available. And I'll show you that. I'll let it be for July 6th for now. Okay? So that may be useful if you don't want to release the assignment until a specific time. And this thing will work for Pages too or anything else. This is how you can control content delivery to your liking. Next, we have the due and until date. It's very important that you understand the difference between these two things to avoid potential confusions with your students. The due date is when the assignment is due. Sounds obvious. Well, yes, but there's a little bit more to it. The due date, all it does is it just flags assignment submissions that were done after the due date as late. That's all it does. And if you haven't set up any sort of late punishment system, then when the TA downloads all the submissions, then they're all going to be okay, even if they were submitted late. This may not match your late policy, which may be no late assignments policy, or maybe limitations within certain point deductions. Because of this, it's not enough to just set a due date and call it a day. What you want to use, you want to set the until date. What the until date does is it locks submissions of assignments. So let's go ahead and set a due date here for Wednesday at 5:55 p.m. What this means is that on July 8th, 2020 at 5:55 p.m., Canvas will no longer accept any more submissions. So when the student tries to upload an assignment to Canvas, it will give him an error and say this assignment has been locked. Or it won't even open the page if they try to open it after 5:55. So that's what you want if you want to just stop late submissions, because at that point they're not allowed. So if you say no late submissions at all, then you want to match the due date and the closing date to the same time of the same day. In this case, both the due date that the student sees and the time that they can submit to will be the same time. This means that After this time, they cannot submit anything. However, if you have a late policy of 24 hours, then maybe you want to make the until 24 hours later. What this means is that they will see this due date, but they will see that they can submit assignments until this time. Obviously, you will want a student that if they submit after the due date, but before the until time, then there will be a late submission point deduction of some sort. So let's go ahead and do that and save it. We haven't still added anything here, so I'm just going to put the word hi. We'll come back to working with that in a minute. But let's just go ahead and put that up like that. So for now, if we go back to home, let's go ahead and publish that assignment. Actually, I want to point something out. I like to make the modules publish ahead of time, because if I hit publish here, it publishes everything in the module, which you may not want. So that's why normally I publish all modules and then manually by hand publish each assignment by clicking on them. But just want to make you aware of that. So let's go ahead and go to student view and see what that looks like on their end. They can see the assignment. They can see the tentative due date. They don't see the exact time, but they see the day it's due. This could be at 1 a.m. or it could be at 11:50 p.m. So that doesn't tell them much about the assignment due date, because it could vary by practically 23 hours. And so it tells them how much it's worth. But if they go and click on it, it'll say that it's locked until July 6th at 12 a.m., which is when I have the publishing allowed. So if I go to leave student view here, and I go back to assignment 1, as you can see here, that's because the available from is July 6th at 12 a.m. If I go ahead and change this to maybe July 4th at 6:24 p.m., which is 1 minute before the current time of recording this video, then I should be able to see it from the student side. So if I go back to home, click on student view, click here, and there you go. Now they see it. They see the exact deadline, they see the exact time, the day. In this case, it says Wednesday because it's next Wednesday. If it was farther into the future, it would just say a day, like July 8 or whatever. It says number of points, it says the expected submission, the file types that you listed, and it gives them the range of time it's available, which is the time from when you published it, so which is 1 minute ago, until the time that the until allows you to submit things. When you go past that time, you no longer see the submit assignment. And then you can see that they have the page for the submit assignment stuff, which we'll talk about writing stuff here. So the student will hit submit assignment, and they'll see a file upload where they can hit browse, and they can upload an assignment themselves. You know, suppose they select a file like this. This file does not have the correct file type. As you can see, it'll give them an error saying this type is not allowed. Okay, so let me just try and submit, I don't want to put my solution up there. This file it'll accept because of the correct file ending. So will the PDF file. But if I try to do the doc file, it'll give me an error. So basically that allows them to stop from submitting incorrect files. They can write a comment such as compile flags or something of that sort, or mercy for the grader. I've seen that as well. But anyways, on their end, all they have to do is hit submit, and then you're good to go. If they submit multiple times, that is perfectly fine. You will keep the last submission time and file, and it'll be versioned with a number after it. So, and you can download all versions if you ever wish to. But if you just use the speed grader system, which will download all of the latest submissions, then you don't have to worry about that. It's only if a student is like, can you please grade an older edition or something, and you choose to allow them to do that, that you want to worry about that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and leave the page here. Now we're back to the instructor view. Let's talk about the main text editor. So this is where you really get to do some art. This is an HTML editor. If you switch over to this, so if you're familiar with HTML, you can go out, go all you want and start writing HTML code and make some art, basically. Cool website. But if you're not that comfortable with HTML, you can also use the built-in editor here, which allows you to do some cool things as well. So let's go ahead and first put a little banner to our assignment. It's welcome to the latest, most epic assignment ever. OMG. But the OMG, suppose you want to make it bigger. You can go to font size and make it bigger, just like that. Suppose you want to bold the welcome. This is bold, italic, underline. You want to center this. There's a lot of things you can do here. Maybe left justify that afterwards. Maybe you want to make the G squared, superscript. Okay. What else? Well, what if you want to insert an image? You can use the embed image, and then you can hit on Canvas, or you can embed directly from a URL. I do not recommend it because you're at the mercy of that host. What I recommend better is you download the image and upload it to your Canvas directory or in the files. Obviously, beware of copyrights. And then you can go ahead and host that directly on Canvas, which will guarantee that it's safer, especially if you're using this in a test or something like that. You don't want that link to go down when you most need it. So that's why I prefer to host things locally on Canvas. From there, you can go to course files, and then you will see the same. This is why its organization is important, because then it's so much easier to maneuver here. I'm going to go to visual aids, or actually I'm going to go to homework, assignment 1, and here are all the files I want, I guess. I want meme1 or UDF. I'm going to put UDF. You select it. You can specify dimensions here, or you can do that later. Once you go ahead and import it, you can click on it, and then you can maneuver it with the little corners, make it big or small, and then basically play with it until you are happy with it. You can move it around the page and so on. So this is part of the banner. So I'm going to put that there, and then more text. But this text we're going to make smaller font again. You can basically, you know, do some art, make it look pretty. And I'll show you what the final result looks like in the one that I did for the class. And then suppose you want to add another picture. You can just go back to the same system, and then actually, yeah, I want just add a picture since we're already there. So this one's some joke. This is a quote from the movie by Bill Paxton, rest in peace. So anyways, you add all the pictures in, and now it's time to actually put in the assignment PDF, right? So all those pictures are, of course, just to hype the students. Okay, how do you link it? Over here on the right, you can see that you have files and images. This is actually another way that you can import an image, right? They appear like this. You can also just click on them, and it'll pop it up. So that's actually a faster method. I actually forgot about that. I was able to show you that method, but you can use that method too. And anyways, you can go to Files. You can click on Homework, Assignment 1, and there's my PDF. So I can either link it like that, and then I can actually modify the link. The link is the content in red. So I can do something like that. The PDF, or I think we better say the assignment. Or you can just leave it as a name. You can also use here the link to URL or the insert edit media or tables to kind of achieve the same thing. Or better yet, just use your HTML code. And as you can see here, this is the code for the file, the download link. This is the name of it, and then this is the reference. So if in here I see the word the PDF, where's that at? The assignment, that PDF, here we go. Assignment9.pdf. You will see that it will change here. The file, okay? And then afterwards, maybe you want to put the source skeleton code. Just click on CPP, and there you go. And then at the end, you're like, good luck. And that's it. So you can hit save, and you will see basically what the students would look like. As you can see, that's not exactly pretty, but you know, you get the idea. But here's a good thing about this. This is why I like putting PDFs. You click on the little magnifying glass here. It'll show a preview to the student within the browser. This assignment was actually heaps related. So yes. The CPP code will allow you to do the same thing, but it will look terrible, and some of it doesn't even show up sometimes. It's a mess. So do warn your students not to try to do the preview on coding files, because it will just show a mess. And I mean, in this case, it actually looks relatively clean because I was nice enough to follow K&R and not go too wide on the text. Oh, never mind. There you go. I went over there. But this is actually not too bad. There are times when literally the code, I have had situations where my skeleton code is missing a page, completely, it just ate a page. And it looks wrong here, but if you download it, you're fine. How do you download it? You just click on it. And then it'll hit you to a download. You hit that, and then you can just save it in your desktop, right? So that's how students will download in case somebody asks you. Okay, so let's see what a nice looking assignment will look like. So let me go ahead very briefly and find, I think this was 11. Let me see. Here's an example of a course, but assignment 11. I think that's the one that's kind of, at least that one's better because it has more things. Here we go. Oh, that was not intended to happen. There we go. So this is for an example of a properly formatted submission that I think is pretty cool. As you can see, I have a little title. I put a little picture, some pictures from the movie where this is based on, some jokes, and somewhere in this case, here's the assignment. So I put it in bigger text. Your assignment. So they can click on that, or they can click on the magnifying glass, and then they can look at the PDF itself, which is quite long actually in this case, because there's a lot of lore for the movie before they actually get to the assignment, which is just minimum spanning trees in this case. Pretty cool actually. I'm quite proud of that assignment. I had a lot of fun time making it. A little bit too much. As you can see, the point was actually 777. This is just a good luck thing for the students. And it was due May 3rd, and it was available from April 20th. And there was a 24-hour deadline for late submissions, I suppose. And then it's available to everyone. Furthermore, in this case, this is what you would see when students submit something. It'll show you that how many students submitted it. And then it says 85 out of 85 graded because it has been graded, but otherwise it would say 0. You can download all submissions very quickly like this. You can also click on Speed Grader and see each one individually. Fortunately, I can't show you that because that's going to show you the actual student submissions, and I don't want to break FERPA. But if for coding assignments, it's not the best thing to use. In that case, I recommend that you just download them. But if there was some sort of essay submission, then this thing has a beautiful system for doing that. Maybe I can make a dummy submission and then show you that in a separate video. This is gonna get pretty long anyways. Look at how much we covered. But I think this is the biggest part. The other stuff is quite easy. So anyways, you can see, of course, this is the goal. This is what you wanted to achieve, something looking interesting for the students. Similarly, while I have this open, let me show you what, one more thing. Embedding videos. You can also embed a video here. So suppose that you want to have a video inside of your tutorial. So what can you have a video of? Well, you might have some code that that talks about the program, right? So for example, let me go ahead and pop something here. This is for my YouTube channel. So hit Insert Edit Media. Go ahead and put the source, which is the YouTube link. Don't worry about the dimensions because you can change them later. Click OK. Actually, oh, never mind. I lied. It's not that easy to change them unless you go to the HTML. But yeah, you can also change them manually. And bam, you can import a video. And in this case, this is just a video from my lectures. But if I go ahead and hit save, now I can hit and play and watch the video. Hello, that's me. And they can also click on YouTube and watch it at full screen. But you can see that it's very, very nice. You know, you have the video, and then you have the assignment PDF, all in one location for the student to have all the resources available for at their disposal. So I actually had videos in this one too. In this case, they were just soundtracks from the movie. But as you can see here, I made it smaller because it's a soundtrack, so it's just a tiny video. So I don't want to play that because copyrights. But yeah, okay. So all you need is fix, build, segfile, repeat. That's funny. Okay, so once you go ahead and make a lot of assignments, this is what it'll look like. This is my Canvas for 302. As you can see, I got a module in the top that says references, which has a bunch of stuff. Then I got them by weeks. And as you can see, each week I have a page, which I'll talk about how to make in a second. I have an assignment. I may have some kind of worksheet that they have to do if it's submitted online. And then I have another page, which is another reference. So what do these look like? They're going to be essentially the same thing that you did for the assignment, but as a page instead of an assignment. But it's still the same code magic. So this looks pretty cool. As you can see, I went ahead and embedded an animation with a GIF, a URL, which is where the GIF is from, some pseudocode, or well, this is just instructions, but you can write pseudocode in this format, and the video. This is, I think, a pretty good example of how cool you can make it for the students to actually engage with the information. In this case, for learning quicksort. Quicksort, as you guys know, have two different partitioning systems. And so I think this is, in class I showed one method of partitioning, and then the other method I just showed a video. So I actually showed this video in class. Because the second method is not as cool as the first one. Not as good either way. So anyway, now I'm getting a little off topic here. But anyways, so this is basically how you make an assignment. Let's make a page. Hit home, hit the plus sign, hit page, new page, and then the topic. So cookies, I don't know. Hit that, hit on edit, and you will see the same HTML editor or the text editor that you saw before, except this time, and here, let me just go ahead and edit the quicksort one. I can copy the HTML directly, actually, and then hit save. And as you can see, I got the exact same page that I had over here by just copying the HTML code. I actually went and hit edit on that one so that I could see the HTML code, and now I have it here. Literally a copy-paste procedure. And of course, I can modify it. But basically, and oh, by the way, here you can allow students to edit, but don't do that. That's if you wanted a student to actually create their own page. I highly discourage you from doing that unless you have a reason to. So it's the same editing procedure as an assignment, but in this case, there's no submission. It's just a page. And again, this is very useful as a reference. I mean, I like books and all, but I personally like to have my own sort of references to teach the students. And this is one of them that I created for them as a, and, you know, it's an animation. It's better than the book that's just static, right? So yeah, and that's why you see that I have a ton of them in my courses. And I think this is what you should really try to achieve. They're all like that. But now let me show you one more, and it's this one. Okay, this is more applying for computer science. You can show code, and if you just try to type code in like this in our cookies here, actually we'll leave that one be because that could be a good template for you guys to practice. I'll hit plus here, and then page, new page, code. Give it a better name, capitalize it. Obviously, I'm trying to go fast now because I just realized this video is going to be way too long if I don't try to go faster. Let me just copy the HTML to start off with, and then hit save. Okay, so now let me show you how I actually achieve this. I can achieve it by using the pre-formatted system. So here when you're editing, you see that you have a couple of options, headers and things. You have this pre-formatted system. Pre-formatted system allows you to actually write code that actually can be tabbed and look relatively nice. It's not going to be color coded, so it's not the best, but you know, this is still better than if you try to type code without this method. It's just going to lose all kind of indentation. It's like if you're trying to code in Microsoft Word. Okay, so in HTML, how do you achieve that? If you don't know HTML, then just learn this much. You type in the pre and then code, then start writing your code, and at the end type it backwards, code and pre, with a little backslash in front. Okay, that's it. Just know this much HTML code, and we'll be good to go. And I do warn you though that if when you're writing that code, if I try to just write in here, include this BR means it's a IO stream, because I just copied and pasted it from like Visual Code, right? Well, without getting any complex thing, you'll see that disappears, and that's because these signs are actually parsed by the HTML parser as part of HTML code and not actual text. So you have to manually type this in by hand after you paste the code, otherwise it'll disappear. And as you can see in the code, it actually uses special flags for special characters, escape sequence characters, I think this is the right term, to be able to show the less than and greater than sign, which is what the ampersand LT less than and ampersand greater than means. So that's the only time that you might run into issues when you're writing HTML code is when you have matching less than and greater than signs, because it thinks that it's an actually HTML tag. So yeah, so this is very, very useful for actually writing code for students, such as if you want, you could actually put skeleton code like this. I prefer it as a file because the students can just download it. But if you have code in class, this is something that I did in my 202 course. So maybe let's just jump in there real fast. Here's my old 202. Oh, no, this is the summer one that I haven't done yet. Where is the old 202 course? Maybe this one? Yeah, so this is my old 202 course. As you can see, same idea. Week 5, I have a quiz that they did. We haven't talked about quizzes, but you'll see. Then sample code. So this is some sample code that I was showing in class. And I coded it in class, but then I went ahead and saved it here so that the students could play with it at home. I also use an IDE one to code it in class. I'd recommend that you use that as a potential editor online. There's tons of them. You don't have to use this one, but I do recommend use this sort of system. Obviously, if you're remote teaching, doing remote learning, teaching from home, then you can just go straight out from Visual Code. But if you're teaching in a classroom where you don't have a compiler installed, then this is a blessing because you can code and compile online. And you can even save a link and share it with students. Just make sure you save it as secret so it's not searchable in the case that it's potentially, in the case that you actually don't want to make it searchable. And so, yeah, this is a very nice way to share code with students. Then they have an assignment. So here's an example of an assignment. Oh yeah, I remember this assignment, that was great. And here you can see a lot of explanations. In this case, I'm explaining the assignment in addition to giving a PDF at the end. That's another nice thing to do, to give extra information, and also any sort of corrections that I might have that people might find, and so on. As you can see, if you want to, in this case, I allowed it to submit a zip file or tar file, so you can add those as file extensions as well. So yeah, as you can see, the module system is very nice because then your assignments can still be organized. As you can see, I have all my assignments organized, and there's a homework category, which is worth half the grade. And then I got 15% for midterm, 15% for midterm, and 20% for final. And I even have an extra credit category that is worth 0%, so that I can keep track of extra credit in a separate manner. So this is what you want to achieve, ideally. You can also have polls and things. And I'll get to the quizzes next in a minute here. But I think that gives you a good introduction into that. So let's see what we've done here. So we went ahead and showed you how to create an assignment. Unlisted assignments we talked about, it's basically the idea of, right now, these 2 pages are private, now they're public. And then you can also make something public, but time it, release it at a certain time. You can also do that with pages, or actually, can you? I don't think you can do it as easily unless you make the module private. But it's mostly applying when it comes to assignments. So next thing. Let's talk about the late system. Okay, so let's look at the grading section. This is going to be where you see students' grades, and there's going to be one name per line, and you'll see them all like this, and you'll see your assignments. You can move them around in any order that you want, and then at the end you'll see the summary of the categories, so that you can see, for example, what is their current homework grade, and then these, of course, will just be 1 grade, because unless you have like multiple pieces of an exam. And then their estimated final grade. You also see a test student all the time. That's useful to you to be able to play around. And in this case, it's actually useful for me to show you stuff. So the big thing I want to show you here is when you're grading an assignment, I show you the idea that students can submit things later, right? They have a deduction if they submit an assignment late. So that's what I want to talk about, late policies. So one way you can do it is you just don't accept assignments. And that's what I used to do, actually. I used to just say, the deadline is at 11 p.m. If you try to submit at 11:01 when it doesn't let you, too bad. It's your own problem. You get a 0. Better luck next time. I'm still a firm believer of that stuff too, but I'm also a firm believer of innovating. And so, because of that, one of my colleagues showed me a paper that said that having a late penalty may be actually beneficial to the students. And so since last semester, I went ahead and tried that. I think it was last semester. Actually, no, it might have been in the fall of 2019. And I did see a couple of people submitted late. I did see some people that were normally submitting okay, but started doing late because they had the probability of doing that. So they procrastinated and they sort of saw it as a buffer. And so there's pros and cons. I do think that there are more pros and cons. And frankly, you know, it's your choice on how you want to do this as long as it's authorized by your coordinator. So anyways, how do you achieve some sort of late submission policy? What you can do is, first of all, if you would like to have some sort of punishment for late submissions and still allow some credit, you can check mark here where it says automatically apply deduction to late submissions. And then you can write here how much of a punishment you want in their grade for a late submission and how much time. So for example, my late policy is 2% of the grade goes down every hour. Okay? What that means is that if a student submits an assignment 1 hour after the due time, but still 23 hours before the until time, which is when it shuts down, and they get everything right, the TA will grade them and give them 100%. But the system will actually deduct 2% of the grade as the highest achievable grade that they can get. And so they're not going to get 100, they're going to get 98%. And that's what I personally do, because I think trying to do by day is just too much work. The students won't do anything. And so what this means is that if I let if I didn't have the late thing shut down after one day, technically after 2 days they'd get 0 points for submitting things as they did. But what I do is after 1 day I do the cutoff. So the lowest grade that they can get is a 50% essentially, 52% I guess, because after that it goes right to 0. So you can do this in combination with the until deadline when you submit, and hopefully you guys remember what that means. But if not, I can just show you again. When I say until, I'm talking about this date here. Okay, so this is when it's due, and this is when it actually stops allowing people to turn in things. And so if you set up the system like this, where it says 2% per hour, it means every hour that it's late, they lose 2%. That means that the highest grade that they can get is 2% less. And so after 24 hours, 2 times 24 is 48. It will basically mean that they've lost 48% of the grade. And then after that, because the until time is hit, it doesn't let them submit it again at all. So it means that they get a 0. And so that's pretty much how I do my late policy now. I would not suggest giving a lowest possible grade percent here. Just leave that at 0. And yeah, that's pretty much the late submission policy. Also in here, I do recommend that you apply here this check mark and put 0 so that it automatically gives a 0 to people who don't submit the assignments. I do warn you though that if you have both of these on and they don't submit the assignment when the due date hits, it will show a 0 until they submit something. If they don't, then that's right, they do have a 0. But suppose that they actually submit something late, then it'll show a 0 until they do that submission. So that might panic students, but let them be panicked. Let them feel that the fact that they haven't turned in an assignment. Next, we have the grade posting policy. So one of the things as an instructor that we like to do is we like to grade assignments, and then we have a standard, right, when we're grading them. But after we grade a couple, we may have to change our standard. And so we may need to go back and modify grades that we've already given. And so it's a good idea to not publish any grades until everybody has been graded. We can also avoid questions from students, because when they see a grade, they're like, why did I lose points here and there? Maybe you want to wait until you actually finish grading everybody before you can actually go out there and start talking about stuff. Also, you may find a mistake in your grading system if you graded a couple of things and then they're like, oh, I hadn't considered this. Let me check it on other people. And if students are seeing you basically play with their grade up and down, left and right, they're going to be like, hey, at some point I had 100% on this, but now I have 90. And you're like, oh, I forgot to do this test case or something. It's unnecessary correspondence. And again, it does not show professionalism. Professionalism is what you want. So just like when you're creating a page or an assignment, you want to keep it private until it's ready to go. The same applies here. I would recommend that you set this to manually post grades. And what that will do is it will hide the assignment grades from being posted until you actually go in there and set them to public, which I'll show you in a second. So let's hit update to apply those things. Now we applied both the late policy and that. And we don't really have a grade here submitted. So I can't show you that, but what I can try to do, I have an idea. I'm gonna open my 135 course that I'm teaching, and I'm gonna hide the student names, and then I'm gonna show you what that looks like. Perfect. Okay. Yes, I'll leave it like that. See a little eye there like that? That means that the student submitted an assignment, and this is extra credit, which is why there's like no submissions. But this one that you can see that hopefully most people submitted. If you go here and you click on post grades, it'll ask you whether you want to post everybody's grade or just the ones that are graded. And then basically, when you do that, you want to grade all the assignments first. Give them a grade here. This is an Excel sheet. You could manually enter the grade there, or you can use SpeedGrader. And then when you're finished, you can post them all. And then only when you post them does the student get notified that you made a post, and they can see their grade. Before that, it doesn't show them a grade at all. So that's what I recommend that you do. While I have this open, when you see a red, it means that the student did not submit the assignment. When you see a blue, it means that they submitted it late and the late policy took points away. I wonder if I could maybe show you that without showing anybody's names. Let me see. Hold on. I know how I'll do this. I'm going to take a picture. Just give me a second. Okay, so name has been removed. This is my TA. And so their names would show up here, John Doe. And then assignment 6, and then the grade is basically what the TA actually gave them. And then here it shows the status. So suppose that you, for some reason, want to accept a late assignment from one person, you could manually change it to no deductions. And so here you can see the time it was submitted late, which would mean it would be approximately a 5% deduction of their grade. And so in this case, it didn't matter because their grade was so low out of the full grade that that it actually did not affect the fact that they submitted late. Because the way it works is it doesn't just reduce of the potential grade they got, it doesn't take away that percentage. No, it's more of a cap. And that's how the late policy works, as a cap versus as a deduction of the current grade they earn. So if somebody earns 50% of the grade, or in this case, if somebody has 40%, but the highest they could get is 90, if all they got is 40, the fact that they turned it in late doesn't punish them about that. It only would have punished them if they try to go for the full points. So this is kind of a debate that the students have to have is it worth submitting something late or that is half done, or sorry, submitting something late that is full done, or submitting something that is almost done but on time, and seeing how they get more points, right? So that's something they gotta figure out. As you can see, the TA can give comments for whatever it is that they got wrong. In this case, I do have a policy that code doesn't compile. You lose automatically 60% of the grade, which is what was applied here, which is why the TA goes ahead and lists the reason why they got this grade. This, of course, avoids a lot of emails asking why I got this grade on this. By clarifying that ahead of time, you're basically avoiding extra communication that is unnecessary. However, I do think it's very nice that you always maintain a professional and courteous attitude towards students. So I do like the fact that he wrote good efforts after that, because that is telling the student what he did wrong in a very nice way, but also encouraging him and saying, hey, you got this wrong, but it's a good try, Don't give up, basically. And so again, I think that's the best way to approach things, Be nice to the students. Some of them don't try, but the ones that do, sometimes they don't do good, and you want to encourage them so they don't give up. So anyways, FERPA lawsuits avoided. Didn't show anybody's name. Okay, so you got to see how the publishing works, and these numbers, as you can see, because there's only one thing, this shows 50% because this is 50, but if I had 2 assignments here, then this would actually do the math, and then this tells it the overall grade. This exclamation point means it does not include this because there's no grade for those. So you can switch that to be additive. I do believe they're sitting for that. I don't remember for now. But anyways, you can also export. You can also export this into an Excel spreadsheet for your own local crazy reasons, and you can import. But doesn't work as nice as you would think, so beware of that. So you can also click on a student and it'll tell you some information, such as when you click manually, then actually we'll open this. Yeah, it'll give you contact information. It'll give you the access report again. You can see when the student last logged in and things like that, interactions, etc., etc. However, this is weird. The only way that you can easily message someone is you click on them, and then on this little side menu, you click the little mailbox, and then you email them like, "Hi, who I don't know." And so, and that also gives you a little report. Once you actually have grades, you will see the report here. Okay, so I think we're almost done. I know this looks like we haven't progressed, but we have. So that is taken care of. We have hosting images for exams. Oh, I think I mentioned this, but I'll mention it again. When you're creating a test or when you're creating something and you publish that, make sure that the files that are being used there, such as images, are listed as unlisted or public. Public, the risk though is they can just access them from files. So ideally you want unlisted. Make sure they're not private because you will see them okay, but the students won't. So that's just that little spiel. Weighting grades, you already saw that happen, as you saw on assignments. Muting and hiring grades, that's what I was showing you here with the grading. Changing default policy you saw. Adding a syllabus, let's do that. We gotta do that still. Modules on homepage, I showed you. Creating a page, I showed you. Adding media, I showed you. Okay, all right, cool. So let's go to changing the icon of a course. That's quite nice. It's not too bad, actually. So you can click up here too to go back to the home page. So if you go to settings, there's a lot of things you can do here. The first one I actually want to skip to is backing up and restoring a course. For that, do not trust that OIT has a backup of your course. Even if they do, it's going to be very tricky to get it. But yeah, I'll leave it at that because we don't really know what happens then. The best thing to do is to use the export system. You can click export course content, and you can do the entire course, create export, and then you just wait a little bit. You can go somewhere else and come back, whatever. And when you're done, you can go ahead and download that. And once you've downloaded that, you can go ahead and then backup. It's basically a backup. And then suppose you're teaching a class next semester after this, and you also want to use sort of a use your old setup that you spent so hard working on as a sort of a template, which is something that I did for 302. You know, I had a lot of these nice little pages that I made. Some of them I made last semester, but some of them I had made before. And so I want to take advantage of that because yes, well, I can copy and paste. It's kind of unnecessary. You can also do import course. And for that, you can upload it from the file because this, I didn't quite show it, but it just downloads a little zip file. Or actually, it's not a zip file, is it? It's, I'll tell you. I guess I never downloaded it, actually. Let me, it's some kind of file. Oh, by the way, I can re-download it. I don't have to re-export. It's .imscc. Okay. So some obscure file type. It's probably just a zip file, but they don't tell you. And so you can also import it back using the same system. But also, if you taught at the class before, you can also manually import something. So I'm going to go ahead and copy a campus course. I'm going to select a course. So for example, this is my summer course. And then you can either copy all content or select specific content. You can adjust due dates so that any due dates get shifted automatically. It's not that reliable, so I wouldn't use that. Click import and then select the content. And so what am I going to import here? Let's go ahead and import the academic conduct video. Yes. And also maybe Rubric. Yeah, this is the Rubric, so I can show you that one. But you can import just about anything. And then you just wait a little bit. You know, it says queued. Eventually, it'll finish importing. And when it does, it's going to show up all over the course. So while that happens, let's go back to the settings. So how do you change the icon of a course? As you can see here, if you go to homepage, or sorry, to the dashboard, I have all these little cool icons to make the make it unique. Otherwise, you just get solid colors. Well, you can change the solid color by just picking here. Go with the dark green or whatever. Bam, done. A picture is nicer, and so we can go ahead and click upload here, and then just find the picture. Memes. And there you go. If you go ahead and hit update course details, then you can go ahead and hit dashboard again, and you should see those. And you can still see that there's sort of a color shade to it. So you can still have that shade, or you can just get rid of it. But I will go ahead and leave it. So it's both a combination of the picture and the color. And I do believe other students see this change too. As far as I know, that's what I've been under the impression of. So now people who are in this course are going to be wondering why that got changed, but it's okay. They'll see the video then. You guys will see the video, right? Now you know. Okay, this completed. Nice. As you can see, wow, this video has been quite a while. Okay, so if I go to I already forgot what I imported. I think I imported the syllabus quiz or academic calendar video. Yeah, you can see here it says imported assignments, and you can see what I imported. So that is a fully functional assignment, and this is an academic conduct video that you have to show in all your courses if you're teaching a lower division course. So you will have to import this assignment. It's actually available in the comments. I'll show you that in a second too. But once you have it there, you can go ahead and go to your home and add it to a module by using the plus sign, then going to, in this case, quiz, hitting the quiz that you already have imported, and you can see it pop up there, and now it's available for students. Okay, let's talk about creating quizzes now, since that's actually the next topic here. So yeah, this is a quiz that I already made, but I'm actually going to go ahead and make a brand new quiz so you can see everything from scratch. So week 2, we're going to have a little quiz. New quiz, basic programming, quiz 1. I don't know. Give it a category, so I'm going to make it part of the homework grade, so I'll put homework. But if you have a specific percentage of your grade that is based on quizzes, you can do that. And then you can hit edit. And yet again, you have a little HTML thing. That's going to be sort of the front page of the quiz, which is the one that you saw here with the Canvas quiz. Let me refresh this page so this shows. Yeah. So that's this page here. You can embed a video or something. And so, yeah, quiz time. I guess I'll just put that for now. There are different categories of quizzes. Graded quiz is your good old quiz. They take it and then they get a grade for it. Practice quiz is sort of like just what it says, practice. You can still have an auto grading system, but it doesn't affect their grade as in the course. Surveys are for, ungraded surveys are ones where you can just get data for like a poll, and a graded survey can be like basically a completion grade. So if you want somebody to do something like a test that or a poll that you are going to give some points for completing, whether or not, it doesn't matter what they put in the poll, as long as they do it, it'll give them points for it. And just one time, they're not going to let them give them like multiple points for doing it again and again. So that's what a graded survey is. Ungraded one is just basically a poll that doesn't affect their grade, such as if you're just curious about something about a poll. Like for example, I polled them if they had laptops, you can do that. So anyways, most likely you would do a graded quiz. You have a couple of categories here. I'm gonna drink some water first. You have shuffle answers, which means that if you're doing something that's like multiple choice, then all the answers will be basically mixed around. You might want to have that on. You can set a time limit. This is very important. So this is how much the student has to finish the test. From the moment they hit start until they hit submit. They can close the browser and reopen it, and that will be okay. They can re-log into the same attempt as long as they have time left. So you go ahead and set this wisely to whatever it is you have to do. You don't want to set allow multiple attempts unless this is some sort of practice quiz. Although I do set it for the academic conduct quiz that I do allow them because it's a special scenario. But yeah, basically, if you do that, you can keep the highest grade, or you can keep an average of them, and you have a limit of how many attempts they can do. So yes. If you turn this off after they finish the quiz, they won't be able to see the questions or the answers or even their submissions. I recommend you do this when you're giving out a test. However, once you do grade the test, or the TA grades the tests, then if the students want to see their grade, it'll just show the grade, even if you make it public. But if they want to see the individual point grade, because you can give points per question, then you have to allow them to see the quiz responses. You can do it so it's a one-time thing, and then you can also see, so you can do the questions that you can automate, like multiple choice questions where you can see an answer. You can go ahead and select that to show that to the students. But if you just want them to see the question, their answer, the grade that they got, and any comment by the TA, then you can go ahead and set that. But I would leave this off and then edit it later when the time comes to actually show the student the grade. Otherwise, a student could potentially leave that open to see the questions and help other people, and you don't want that. Access code is just a password. So in addition to this being available at a specific time, you could also require some sort of access code for additional security purposes, or just for joking. I don't know, I make the code a joke usually. Filter IP address I have never used, but potentially you could list a range of IP addresses that are allowed to take the test, in theory preventing proxies from taking the test. I never have used it. I'm assuming it works. However, if anybody knows what they're doing, they could spoof that. So yeah, that's why I don't use it. Yet again, you can also make the quiz available a certain time. Otherwise, it'll just say locked. By the way, if you don't put anything in there, it will just be available. Basically, it doesn't have a start date. You could leave everything like that, and it means that they can take the test anytime they want. Obviously, they only have half an hour once they do start, but they can do it anytime they want. However, more than likely, you will basically be like, okay, there's going to be a test that's going to happen, on this day, from this time. So perhaps the test itself is half an hour long, but maybe you want to give them 2 hours. What does that mean? That means that anybody that starts at 1 p.m. or 1:01, it's going to finish at 1:31 or 1:30. So basically exactly half an hour later. But then potentially people start a little bit later and still have the full half an hour. However, if somebody starts at 1:50, even though they have half an hour, because the until is set at 2, then it'll basically, shoot, I set these backwards. My bad, apologies. The available from will be that case. You can also copy and paste like that. So if you make it available from 1, and then you say until 2, that means that the test is available for 1 hour. But it's only available for half an hour. So if I start it right at 1, at 1:30, it'll finish. If I started at 1:20, at 1:50, it'll finish. But if I started at 1:40, at 2, it'll finish. So then I won't get my full half an hour. It'll cut it off. So you can't have a student start at 1:59 and expect to have half an hour. However, I don't recommend you do this. I do recommend you add maybe like a 2-minute buffer or something like that, just to, for delays between the time that the test gets unlocked to the time they actually start the test. So you could do like 1:32 maybe, and that gives them a 2-minute buffer to get going on a test after it's unlocked. That way they have the real half an hour, but not enough where, like, after they finish the test, they can email their buddies and who are still taking the test and give them the answers. So yes. And yet again, make sure that you put the due and until at the same time, unless you allow late submissions of a test, which would be totally weird. So just make those 2 match. You can hit save, just to make sure that we don't lose any of those settings. And now we can go in and actually add questions. New question. So there's a lot of different kind of questions you can have. Each question has a title, but this title is internal. The students don't see it, so don't expect them to see this. So just let it be. This is the number of points each question is worth. This is basically how you weight the test itself, against anything else in this category. So I'm just going to say that this question is worth 2 points. And you can have a multiple choice question, in which case you can say, which language is cooler? Obviously, this is a question that has a clear answer, right? C++, Python, Java, and C#. And so, of course, you can select the right answer, which we all know is Python, right? No, we're going to trigger people. Maybe C++. Oh, snap. Well, what have we done? Well, we'll set Python. Update question. Bam. Now you have a working question. And the cool thing about multiple choice questions is that you can basically, it will be auto-graded. So you don't have to worry about that. However, I highly discourage you to actually do this in a real test, because multiple choice questions at college level, like seriously, that's not good. So unless it's something casual like I guess like a quiz, but not a real test. So what if there's multiple answers to your question, such as the cases here, right? You can also do something like multiple answers, and every time you select a category, you can see here the description of it. So like this question will show a checkbox next to each answer, and the student will select all the answers that you mark as correct. So in this case, we're going to say that both C++ and Python are the correct answer as a combination. They have to select both to get full points. You select the little line here, the little arrow here, and now both of them are actually correct. They have to select both. This is not like they choose one or the other. They have to select both. There's no option here that allows you to do that, where like one is okay and then the other one is also okay, but you only have to pick one, so you have 50 like better chances because you have two right answers. No. This is more of like you have to select both as part of it being okay. There's true false, which is the same thing. You have true and false. You can just write a question and say which one is the correct one. Fill in the blank, which allows you to have multiple options here. So like, you know, suppose I sometimes ask, what is 2 plus 2? Okay. So the answer could be 4, but they could also write the word 4 in there. So you may want to consider that. Of course, you can manually go in and change grades for things that this doesn't catch, but you want to have all possibilities like that. Cuatro, something, all potentially right answers, right? So anyways, let's actually not keep modifying the same question. Let's make a new question. So this one's worth 5 points. The bigger ones that you're really going to use, I'll let you experiment with those, but the big ones that you want to use are the last two, essay and file upload. Essay just gives them a text prompt like this, so they can just write. This could be useful for any question that can be answered, like an open-ended question that requires some sort of verbal answer, but no pictures or anything fancy. They could write code here, so like, hi, and then they can go to pre-formatted and start writing code, include IO stream using namespace. However, if they try pressing tab here, you can see it went down here. That's not good. Also for the student, they could accidentally submit the test, so you got to warn them about that. You're going to have to use manual space here unless they know their HTML and can go ahead and put the code tags themselves. And then they can start actually writing code here and so on. But yeah, that's just that. So that's the big one that you'll use. And then you also have the file upload question. The file upload question, so here, let's just make another one. Here you ask a question for the student, write a program that blah, okay? And that's it. You can see there's no sort of submission or anything. That's because the student will see an upload. So we'll leave it like that, and then I'll show you that on the student view. So you finish doing your quiz. You can hit show question details so you can kind of see what the possible options are and whatnot. Go ahead and save. Now it'll take you back to the page here. Hit preview. This will basically be a test run. It even times you. If you want to, I highly encourage you to make your TAs take 1 hour off their office hours and take the test for you that you've created if you're in charge of making a test. That way you can time it, and also they can detect any potential errors that an extra set of eyes can get to see. So that's just a tip. So this is basically what the student sees. There is a way to make it so you can show one question at a time. I didn't show you that, but I do remember that being the case. I don't think that's a good idea though. It puts undue pressure on students. It makes them nervous. So yeah, so I put 4 here. Essay question, so essay answer. I don't know. And file upload. You can go ahead and choose a file and upload a picture. I don't know. If I hit submit quiz here, it's not gonna really let me, as far as I remember. I don't think it saves it as a preview. But for a student, it would have if they were actually taking the test. But anyways, this is a good practice. As you can see here, it actually graded this correctly for me. It actually put a 4. This one though, it's an essay question, so it can't grade, and the upload it can't grade. So the score to the student will see if you have this published as a grade. If you don't set the grading policies to not show things until they're graded, they will see this and panic probably. So just tell them that that's because that's the automated part that worked, and then the stuff is yet to be filled. Okay, so you can go back and edit. Where's that one setting? Show one question at a time. Lock question as they're answering if you don't want them to go back a question. But like I said, I discourage you from doing that unless you have a reason to do so. Once your quiz is all ready and set to go and TA has taken it and tested it, TAs can see things that are not published. It's only students that can't. Go ahead and make it public. And bam. Students usually get notifications when you make assignments public. However, when you edit an assignment, they don't get an additional notification unless you choose to do that. I do recommend that if you're doing a correction after the assignment has been published, you can do that by putting this check mark here that says notify users that this content has been changed. Then that'll send an email notification. If you want to change notifications for yourself, you can go to settings, and somewhere in here is notifications. I promise you. It might actually be under account. Yeah, I think it's under account. Hold on, let me look at account on my own link without showing you personal stuff. Yeah, so if you go to account, I'll take a screenshot. If you click on the account over there, you're going to see this. Click on notifications. And now you're going to see this. Right there. And hopefully there's no personal information there. But yeah, so here you can say what kind of, when there's a notification, what to do with it. Either notify me right away, send some sort of daily summary, send some sort of weekly summary, or do not send me anything. What kind of notifications do I recommend you set to send immediately? I would say announcements, because if you don't make an announcement, it means the TA is making it, and maybe you want to find out what is he's announcing. And from a student point of view, of course, I wanted grades to be notified to me immediately. So I recommend your students that you tell them to have notifications set to immediate for grades so that they can see their grade as soon as it's published. And then they can stop emailing you asking you when their grade's going to be posted. Also, I do recommend as an instructor that you set discussions to automatically notify you. Here I have 2 emails. I don't know why. But yeah, shoot. I'll have to have the email from the video later. But okay. Yes, mark the time. Okay. So basically, if a student asks a question in the discussion board, which I haven't gotten to, you want to respond to them quickly, or at least you want to try to. And so the best way is to actually know that they wrote something. And so sending an email, I have email notifications on my phone, you know, it tells me that somebody wrote a question. So I want to have that happen immediately, and then it can be my decision if I'm busy to answer it or not. But at least I know it's there. Otherwise, I wouldn't know. Same with conversations and messages. I will set that to immediate as well. Most of these should be preset by default. But if it's not, then you can go ahead and do that. So that talks about notifications. Okay, let's see what else. Hiding categories. There is a way to hide categories if you go to navigation. Let's say you want to hide new analytics because students, you're not using that, so you don't want students to see it to make things less cluttered. You hit disable, and it should basically do it if you hit save. There's a lot of things disabled automatically. If you're using WebEx, which I'm not covering, but I can do in a separate video, you can enable that because it's disabled by default by hitting enable on that category. And now it'll show that category, so you can do that. So whatever you're not using, I would recommend you disable. One of the latest things that I discovered is good to disable is the people category. I think that prevents students from messaging other students on campus, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but they can send spam emails to everybody, which can be very annoying. So for that, it's better to use a discussion board. What is a discussion board? It's basically a forum with threads. You can create a post, you create a discussion, test, hi. You can allow threaded replies. You can even do grading. So like, you know, I've never done this, but I do know some of the different people do this, where like they have an assignment and then you have to write 2 responses to the discussion to get points, you know, to encourage discussion. If you want to do that, you can. There is that thing in there. You can also set this to be, so you know, you can prepare this ahead of time and then set it to be published at a certain time. That's kind of useful too. You know, but frankly, I prefer and I recommend and encourage you to avoid using the discussion forum and focus on using Discord. It's way, way better and faster to interact with people in a real-time situation versus this where I have to hit refresh if I want to see a new post. And it's kind of hard to have an actual discussion going on here. Conversation. It's hard to have a conversation. You can have a discussion, but not a real conversation. It's not real time. So, yes. Okay, sending announcements. So, look at our to-do list. We modify notifications, creating discussions. All right, hiding categories, announcements. This is useful. This will send an email to every single student and they'll send them a notification. This is very useful if you want to cancel class, if you're extending an assignment and you want to reinforce that information. You can also notify students when you change the dates. But in general, if you need to communicate something to the students in a sort of faster fashion or urgent fashion, you can create an announcement saying, hi, test announcement, or what would be better? Assignment 3 has been pushed 1 day. Check Canvas for a new deadline. You have the text editor, so you can, you know, you can still go in and add pictures. You can do everything you want, just like before. However, do know that this will be getting out as an email, which may or may not show all of the content. I actually use my announcements sometimes to basically tell people that I'm doing my live streams on Twitch, and you know, first few times around when I do it, I remind them because they might not remember the time, some things like that. You can limit the announcement to specific groups of people. You can also delay the announcement. So, for example, when I'm giving out a test, I send out reminders. So ahead of time, I'll write like 4 different announcements and set different times for each of them, like that. And then put a time actually to it. So like as I say, the test starts at 9. At 8:30 a.m., I set a reminder that says like, you know, 30 minutes until go time for test. And then you can actually use this to actually give the password. So there you go, password Pikachu. That was actually my password for the last test. So yeah, you can do that. And then basically, you know, if you want to time announcements, that's a pretty nice and convenient feature. So you can sleep in before the test starts. You can also allow users to comment. So I don't find this to be a very useful feature, but it might be if in your cases. So just be aware that everybody can see those comments. And they can, if you're really into social media, which I kind of discourage you to do, you can allow liking. But yes, I would not really mess with that. Anyways, once you save it, it is basically ready to go in this case because I didn't make it immediate. I could make it immediate by basically deleting this, but I don't want to do that because it's going to notify everybody who's in here. So I'm not going to post it. But it would be the same thing. It would just say posted and say a time. And the students can see the announcements at any time here, or you can see them. You can also delete them like this, and bam, they're gone. So like I said, it should notify the student by email. So it's a very, very nice and convenient way to send out a mass communique. We're almost done. Syllabus. All right, so when you get a syllabus, you can go ahead and either just write it in by hand, or better yet, you might have a PDF of it that you uploaded earlier, very convenient. So you can just throw it in like that, and just basically click that. And voila, you have the syllabus. Except this time it's actually a PDF assignment, but you know, yeah. You can also write it in by hand there, as I said. That's pretty much all there's to it for the syllabus, actually. That's quite convenient, actually. Come on, there we go. Yes, you can click on pages to see the pages by individually. I would hide this again so that you want to focus students' attention on the home page. That's where you can control the content to be in a much more organized fashion. Lastly, we are going to talk about 3 last things here. Rubric. So sometimes the student asks how you're going to grade this and that, and you may want to create a rubric, and there is a special system here. If you go to the bottom of the page, you can hit a plus here to the rubric, And then if you import this or you make it yourself, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and import it. Find a rubric that I uploaded here. Programming assignments with write-up, I think. Oh, shoot. Hold on. There we go. You click on that like that. And now it has a rubric that actually distributes how things are going to be graded. Like global variables, 5 points, no global variables. 0 points uses global variables. So if the student loses 5 points, they know that you can say why they lost those 5 points. Versus like you don't play games with their grade. If they lose points for something, it's a defined thing, and you have a defined amount of points you lose for. Not because you don't like them or because you don't like the code. You have well-defined rules that you follow and your TAs follow. And the students can see this as well. This avoids a lot of arguments and problems between students and faculty, in my opinion. So that's a rubric for you. I'm already hearing the fireworks out there. By the way, there's an eclipse happening in an hour, so check that out. I mean, that's by the time I post this video, it's be after that, but yeah, so there's that. Okay, making a course public or private. So right now, all I've done, if I had students here, they would not see anything. In fact, they wouldn't even see the course under the dashboard. They would not see the course here because we haven't even made the course public. So before your semester starts, you're building this, you want to test it, you get everything done, and then the semester's about to start. Don't forget to hit publish here. Now everything's available. If things are manually unpublished, that's okay. You can also unpublish it again. Suppose you want to make more changes. This hides it from the students. I don't recommend you do this after you publish it the first time and students can access it. So, be careful. Publish when you're actually ready. But if you publish something, it doesn't change things that are unlisted. So that way you can still control content delivery. It doesn't automatically force things to be published. That's a good thing if you you're still working on some of the content. But yet again, I would, if you're done with something, publish it and then control it with the delivery, the opening times. As an instructor, you will see here work that you have to grade. When you get assignments turned in, it'll tell you that like you have assignment 5 that needs to be graded and things like that. That's useful for your TAs to know when submissions have been posted that allow you to grade things. If for example, here's my 302 core, or I don't know, my 135 course, it says to do grade assignment 7. Grade extra credit, grade assignment 9. Coming up, these are deadlines. You can look at calendar and stuff like that. Students see something similar as well. So that's public and private. Last thing I got in here is lockdown browser, and we're basically done. So lockdown browser is an additional feature that allows you to basically lock down the browser for a student that's taking a test. Could be useful if they have to take a test from home and you were trying to add some sort of sense of security to avoid cheating. What it'll do is it'll basically lock down their computer so they can't use basically another window to Google the answer. And in addition to that, it has features to be able to record the students for the entire session. You can also watch a log of students for their answers, but ultimately, this is mostly more of a passive monitoring system because they will record the students and they will set some flags to the students that move a lot or their eyes gaze away, but you're not going to sit there and watch hours of footage. So it's more of like you wait for the flags to happen. And then if you ever suspect somebody of cheating, then you can actually go in and watch the video. I'm not going to go too much into detail of this because if you want to see more, you can click on Lockdown Browser. You can click on these links and it'll show you how to actually enable Lockdown Browser for any of the quizzes that you've already created. So you want to do this at the end after you created the quizzes. You can, and this respondus is for requiring a webcam. So that's it. There, ladies and gentlemen, is a crash course into Canvas and all of the features that you can do. Remember, I'll leave you with these closing words. Yes, there's a lot of things here that you can skip and still deliver the same content to students in the sense of, here's your assignment page, here's the submission page, that's it. Here's some files of some notes or content that I show you in class. And while it'll work, I think that there's a little bit of appreciation that will come from the student if you take the time to deliver the content in a nicer, funner way in a way. You know, you want to engage the student to hang out in that website, to look at those resources that you offer for them. And you can only achieve that if you cater that in a way that it's friendly to them. And that's why I really am a proponent of using modules to deliver the content. You know, it's very, I mean, yes, it's a lot of stuff, but it's very mobile friendly as well if you do it modules. And it really just encourages people to actually hang out there and read all these things. And they just don't see raw information. You have a place to comment things. If there's something about an assignment that you need to put, you can put it in the assignment page. Here's an example of an assignment that I actually just did directly here without a PDF. Picture the assignment, you know, they had to write a constitution or something. And really, I think that this is what you want to do. And this is what you really should do. It's not enough to just have files and just let people submit things that way. No, you want to go above and beyond and make it look good, because the students will appreciate that, and I think they will learn better. And it's a little bit more work, but I think it's worth it. I think every second of it is worth it. And I do hope that you actually spend some time and put that to the test. So with that, I shall close this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you all learned. If anybody's watching this is not a UNLV but is still learning from Canvas, then I hope you liked it. And if you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. Take care and happy Independence Day.